Hello guys, Blackout here, and here it is, the video all been waiting for, the most complete guide on the internet for the upcoming weekend. On October the 14th and 15th, the yugioh sneak peek will take place, and in this massive video I will talk about everything you need to know about the event. So if you like the sneak peek as much as I do, and if you want to win your playmat on this weekend, I would highly advise you to watch the entire video to get as much knowledge as possible, because as you know, knowledge is power. And you need this knowledge because this sneak peek is gonna be crazy. I think I never see a sneak peek like this before. Very defensive, nearly no removal at all, and most of the removal option can be outplayed. And overall there are only a few threats on this sneak. So if you know those threats and if you play around them and if you can play around the removal options, this is gonna be the key for you to win as many games as possible. That's exactly what I will teach you in this video. As last time, you see the timestamps on screen, so feel free to jump to the section that interests you the most. At first, for all the beginners, we will talk about sneak peeks in general. What is a sneak peek? What you need to attend a sneak peek? All the special rules for the event and how the event works. And why it's, in my opinion, one of the best things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially for new players and even for people that never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. Next, we're gonna talk about some general advice, and after that we're gonna talk about some specific advice about circuit break. So all the core informations, for example, the average set line of the monsters, what you should avoid, and informations about the main archetypes in the set. And of course, last but not least, my analysis of all 100 cards from the set, how to use them and how to play around them. Before I start the guide, I want to point out a very important information that I didn't even know the last time when I made my first guide. My guide about Code of the Duelist was overall very well received, but some people got very angry at me because they went to the event and it was completely different from what I told them. The reason for this is that there exist two different versions of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sneak peeks. Again, I didn't even know that myself: open dueling or seed and constructed. I will only focus on open dueling because constructed is just a completely normal tournament like any other, only with the difference that you can use the new cards from the set on this event. Open dueling is, in my opinion, way more fun. Building your deck only out of the new circuit break cards is way more fun. It's more enjoyable and it gives this event its very special and unique touch that you cannot experience anywhere else. And this is why the guide makes so much sense, because trust me, anybody attending those, say, tournaments doesn't know what the cards do before they even open the packs, but they better should, because it's a competitive tournament. So if you're not sure what kind of tournament your closest gaming store is doing for this sneak peek, don't worry, I got you. Just click one of the two links in the description, one for Europe, one for America, click on your flag, and you will find a table. Just search for your local gaming shop and call them. By the way, you also can find additional useful information in those charts about your locals. But that's just something I want to point out. So for all beginners and all people who never went to a sneak, what is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Sneak peek and what happens there? The sneak peek is an event on the last weekend before our main new booster set comes out, so all 3 months. And it's the first opportunity to get your hands on all the new 100 cards from the set. On this tournament you don't play with your own cards. In fact, you can even go there if you don't have a single Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. You pay 20 euros or dollars depending on the country as an entry fee, and for this money you get 5 booster packs, 9 cards each, plus an ultra rare promo card from the set. So 46 cards in total. The promo for Circuit Break is Hello Hello, a pendulum monster, see it right now on screen. After each participant gets a pack, you open them together. You have around 30 minutes to build your deck containing at least 20 cards. And yes, you can also use the promo card. Another reason to watch this video till the end, because if you already know all the cards, you can speed up your deck building process and just playtest a little bit around. For example, shuffle and draw and check your opening hands if they are good or not, and if you might change your build a little bit. Very important, if you pull a certain card more than 3 times, you can play it that often. So even if you open, for example, 5 copies of one card, you can play all 5 copies. Those are special rules for sneak peeks only. Another very important rule is that you cannot trade any cards from Circuit Break on this event until it's over, because otherwise you could just trade the best cards before the event starts, and that would be really unfair. Other people would have unfair advantages that wouldn't be fun, so the rule is there for a reason. After building your deck, you play a few rounds of Swiss. Swiss means that you play against different opponents, and even if you lose, you're still there. You can just play and get as many wins as somehow possible. Depending on the participants, you will play probably like 4 to 6 rounds. If you won enough of those Swiss games, you get into the knockout rounds in the top card. I have to mention that not every store plays those KO rounds, but most do. And if you win, you get your playmat. You see the circuit break prize mat right now on screen. Looks pretty cool in my opinion. And yes, this playmat has also the new layout. I also want to point out that additional playmats are very often given away to random people at the end of the event. So even if you made last place with a little bit of luck, you can get your playmat at the end of the day. So definitely stay around till the end of the event, you might get lucky. And yeah, that's everything you need to know about the event. There's also another link to the official Konami FAQ in the description. If you still have questions, I would advise you to click on the link or just ask me in the comments and I will do my best to answer you as quickly as possible. But those are just the basics. Next, I'm going to give you some general advice on the sneak peek. And yes, most of this was already mentioned in my last guide, but again, I don't want that beginners are left behind. They should know everything they need to know to go to the event and have the same fair chance. And that's also why I included a new section with specific advice about the booster itself. So general advice number 1. Deckouts are a win option. After all, you only play with 20 cards. It's like Duel Links in that aspect. So I would advise you to play slightly more than 20 cards, especially on such a defensive sneak peek like this, but more onto that later. Second advice. So sneak peeks are like old school Yu-Gi-Oh! So monsters with high attack and field presence matter much more than in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Removal is key. Sure, card advantage is not bad, but normally the person that has the stronger monster on the field wins, or more monsters on the field wins. Third advice. Bring something to eat and to drink. This is not a joke, I'm serious. This event is very long, around 5 to 6 hours, with the top card even longer. You will spend a lot of time waiting and sooner or later you will get hungry. You will not be able to focus on the game and make stupid mistakes. You can prevent that, so just bring something to eat and to drink. Next, a small checklist for you. Do you have your pen, your piece of paper, a coin, a calculator or your smartphone, a dice, sleeves, and maybe a playmat if you already own one? Bring everything with you. Fifth advice, don't break around with your pulls. Don't do this because I don't like it. Do it because you give information to your opponents what card you pulled. And trust me, there are so many people that just scream around if you pull a secret rare or ultra rare. Just watch out for those people and you already have information about them. And you can use that information to your advantage if you play against them later on. Well, you already know what cards they could have. This doesn't also work for the secret rares or ultra rares for every single card they have. And last advice, don't play too many high level monsters. 3 level 5 or higher monsters is a good ratio, otherwise you might open with a completely useless starting hand, which is very likely to lose you the duel. So try to play around 10 to 15 level 4 or lower level monsters, 2 to 3 level 5 or higher monsters, and around 5 to 7 spell traps. Of course, those numbers are not set in stone, but it's just not wise for solid deck building for everybody who never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. But let's get more specific with some important information about Circuit Break itself. This is the section that you want to watch if you don't have a lot of time and want to prepare as good as possible. Circuit Break will be one hell of a sneak. The overall stat line of the monsters is low, which is gonna be a very defensive sneak, especially because there are only a handful of cards that can become a threat. And you also see this in the stat line of the monsters. Code of the Duelist has a lot of 1800 attack beatsticks and 2000 defensive walls. Circuit Break has only like 5 level 4 lower monsters with more than 1600 attack and only 7 level 4 or lower monsters with over 1500 defense, so that already says everything. Also the level 5 or level 6 monsters are overall bad. None of them has more than 2200 attack. In fact, even some high level monsters struggle to get over 2200 defensive position monsters. So if you want to put some pressure on board, you either need some very specific card combinations or one of the few high level beatsticks that are all rare or have even a higher rarity. You get the problem by now, the sneak will be one huge stall fest. Even worse, there's nearly no monster removal in the set or removal in general. And most of those cards are very high rarity. If your opponent summons a level 7 or 8 monster with 2300 or more attack, you are in a very bad spot. And my last advice, pray that you open with as many crawlers as possible. Nearly all the Crawler cards are common, even 2 of the Link monsters are common. And when those Link monsters are destroyed, even by battle, you get 2 Crawlers back from your graveyard. The field spell is crazy strong on the sneak peek, another common. Not all their cards are good, but you should only play them if you have a few of them. The more you pull, the better they become, and if you play like 6 or 7 Crawlers, and if a third of your deck are Crawler monsters, you have a lot of synergy with your cards. And this is where you could play a very, very powerful deck that can completely crush opponents. So good luck pulling as many Crawlers as you can. Crawlers are not a competitive, really powerful archetype, but on a sneak they are insane. Those are my advice when it comes to the set itself, but now let's get to the best part of the video, my analysis of all 100 cards. And as last time, we begin by showing you my tier list. All the 100 cards will have a colorful border. The color will immediately show you how good the card is. Useless cards or tier 5 cards are dark red. Tier 4 cards are red. Those cards are either very weak monsters with low stats and useless effects, or very situational cards that you can nearly never use. So if you get very lucky with your pulls, if you do draw above average amount of support cards for one archetype, some tier 4 cards might actually be playable. Tier 3 or yellow cards are the most average ones. Those are monsters with 1500 or 1600 attack or defense, or some decent spell and trap cards, but nothing special, but at least playable. Tier 2 cards are green, and those are already pretty good, low level monsters with good stats, for example. And then there are tier 1 cards. Those cards are even stronger than the tier 2 cards. They are blue and kind of break the rules. They work around a lot of threats and are overall very powerful and versatile. Be happy for every card you pull. And then there are the tier 0 cards, the most broken ones, the ones that are completely unfair and can win you a game on their own. But are there any tier 0 cards in the set? Well, let's find out. One last thing before we start going through all the 100 cards. Most of these cards are in Japanese because all the English cards have a low resolution. It's also easier for me to prepare for this kind of videos because information are normally leaked only a few days before the sneak. That's also why nobody else besides me makes those sneak peek guides, because this video will already be outdated in like 2 days and nobody wants to go through the entire effort besides me to do that. So just memorize the artwork. Also, most names are not official and could change. Again, pay attention to the artwork of the cards. If you want to read the effects, check out the wiki link in the description. I'm gonna review them in order. So let's start. The first card, as always, is a sneak promo card, Hello Hello. This might be a normal monster, but it's also a tuner and a pendulum monster. In fact, it's the only pendulum monster, and it's nearly would have been a tuner in a 100 card set without a synchro monster. If it wouldn't have been for the fact that we got a TCG exclusive level 7 synchro monster in this set, in Samurai Destroyer, that's the name of the synchro, is pretty damn good. So do you play this? If you did pull Samurai Destroyer, we're gonna talk about it later. Yes, absolutely, Samurai Destroyer is insanely powerful and can win games on its own. If you didn't pull Samurai Destroyer, you don't play this. It's that easy. Next card, Defect Compiler. Let me see. Weak stats, very situational effect that depends on your opponent, inflicting effect damage to you, and a medical payoff by increasing his attack to 1800, but only till the end of the turn. Nah, it's not that strong, so don't play this. Next up we have one of the few one-triple monster in the set, Capitus's Stalker. It can be nice if you have 2 of those on the field, then one of them can boost another one up to 2800 attack, which is pretty nice, but 2000 attack is also not that bad for one triple on the sneak. It's okay, but definitely not good. Next we have the first decent card. Link and Fly has 1800 defense. It's pretty good for stalling or tripling. Yeah, definitely playable. Nearly forgot. It can even be special summoned to one of your zones a Link monster points to. Nice to surprise your opponent with a quick triple summon, for example. So overall playable. The fifth card in the set is Trickster Narcus. This card has 1800 defense and even a decent attack value of 1000. You can special summon her from the hand if your opponent takes effect damage, and every time your opponent activates a card effect in the hand or on the grave, he takes 200 effect damage. Shouldn't come up that often during the sneak peek, but the defense value already is pretty good, so this card is playable. The next card is probably one of the worst cards in the entire set. Dark Angel is level 5 with 0 attack and defense. You can boost the attack of a monster but its effect also requires a fairy type monster you control being attacked, and you have discarded from your hand to trigger the effect. Guess how many fairy type monsters are in the set? 2. Trickster Narcus and this card, Dark Angel itself. And this doesn't even have any attacks, so don't play this, just take this advice. Be careful if you're attacking opponents Trickster Narcus while they control another face-up monster. That would be dangerous if you attack with your monster and that opponent's monster would have 1000 more attack. That's the only advice I'm giving you, otherwise this card is completely useless and you shouldn't think about it too much. Gookie Headbutt Bat is equally bad. This card only does something if you play 3 of them in your deck, but they have 800 attack and 0 defense, are really weak. You could play 3 of them, and if you have 3 of them on the field, you could link summon the Gookie Link monster, which is not that strong. And to go all of this work just to have the potential to summon a Link 3 monster is not worth it. So even if you have 3 copies of this card, don't play it. Unlike Gateway Dragon, he can be special summoned if your opponent controls a Link monster. 1600 attack are okay, at least on this sneak. And he can special summon a level 4 or lower Dark Dragon type monster from your hand. Not bad, it's actually pretty playable. Next up we have Sniffing Dragon. Can search another copy of himself by normal summoning him. This tints your deck and gives you a +1. Seems pretty good in a normal game, but on a sneak, not that much. You jack out earlier, 800 attack and attack position are nothing. Your opponent will just inflict a ton of damage to you by attacking it. And you need multiple copies for it to work. Even if you have them, like Gookie Headbutt Bat, don't play this. Now pay attention, Anish Rocket Dragon. I hope I pronounced that right, is level 1 with 2200 defense. This card has so much defense. Even the strongest 1-tribute monster in the set cannot attack over it. That's how defensive this card is. Even better, if it's a sword, you can special summon another rocket monster except yourself from your deck during the end phase. Unfortunately, all the other rocket monsters are very high rarity, so you probably won't have them, but still, this card is insane. In fact, the strongest of all the level 4 or lower monsters in the set when it comes to defense. Do you play this? Yes, every single copy that you draw. The other rocket monsters are also pretty good. Auto Rocket Dragon has 1600 attack, and he also has the same special summon effect. He can also destroy spell and trap cards if a Link monster targets him. Shouldn't happen that often, but it's cool. Stats are okay, absolutely playable. 1600 attack is enough on this sneak. Next up we have an ultra rare Magna Rocket Dragon, can destroy monsters if a Link monster targets him. He also has the same special summoning effect like the other rocket monsters during the end phase, and he also has 1800 attack for level 4. There are only a few of those 1800 monsters in the set. This card is very strong, absolutely playable, very good game opener. Play this. Now we get to the Altergeist. Again, another archetype that is very high rarity. Altergeist Marionetta is an ultra rare that lets you set an Altergeist trap card directly from your deck. We will talk about those trap cards later on in the video. He can also special summon Altergeist monsters from the grave by sending another Altergeist card you control to the graveyard, but overall you want to play this card for its first effect and because of its stats. 600 attack and 1700 defense are solid, overall playable, especially if you put one of the Altergeist trap cards. Next we have Altergeist Sequitors, who is basically nothing else than a banned Martial Spectre Unicorn Corinne. This card has a quick effect to bounce back any monster by returning another Altergeist card you control to the hand. This is a super rare, it's very powerful and can win games on its own. There's also a very annoying combo with another Altergeist monster. More onto that in a few seconds. So how do you play around this card? Very important, don't invest resources into high level monsters, triple summon or special summon monsters from the extra deck while this card is on the field. Your opponent will simply bounce them back. Instead, try to get 4 monsters on the field. Yes, that's insane. So that you can counter this card and attack over Sequitors. So don't attack until you have 4 monsters on the side on the field. I will tell you later why, because this combo is just insane. But first, before we get to that combo, let's take a look at Altergeist's Mellow Seek. Another ultra rare, it has 500 attack, but beware it can attack directly. And if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can set any card your opponent's side on the field to the graveyard. This is one hell of a removal effect. This is a very powerful card that you want to save for big threats like a triple summoned monster or a monster special summon from the extra deck. But it can also get rid of spell and trap cards. Very versatile, very good card, absolutely playable. And now to the last Altergeist, Altergeist Kunquerry. This card can be special summoned if your opponent attacks an Altergeist monster you control and it stops the attack. Afterwards it can negate the effects of one face-up card on the field. Now to the insane combo I want to show you. If your opponent attacks your Altar Guide Circuitous, you can special summon this card from your hand and simply block the attack. Then return Concurry back to the hand to return an opponent's monster to the hand that afterwards would attack. And if your opponent attacks with his third monster, well, you can negate another attack because Concurry's effect is not once per turn for some reason. Circuitous effect is at least once per turn. Still, so as long as you have Circuitous on the field and this card in the hand, he cannot really attack. A very unfair combo. If you have those cards, wait until you have both in hand, then go for it, and it's incredible and can decide games on its own. Besides that, Concurry has 2400 defense for a 1-3-bit monster, which is fine, makes it even playable without the synergy, but nothing too special. Now we come to the crawlers, and I mentioned this earlier, all of them are common and very strong, at least on the sneak. All of them have an effect to special summon 2 different other crawler monsters from the main deck in case they leave the field by your opponent. Of course, you need to pull a lot of crawlers from your packs to use this effect, and I also have to mention that you deck out faster if you use it, but pulling multiple crawlers shouldn't be a problem. The crawler you see right now on screen is arguably the best one. Crawler Spy not only has 2100 defense, that can even be increased to 2400 with their field spell. This card also has a flip effect to destroy opponent's monsters. Incredible, one of the best commons in the set. Play every single copy that you get from your packs. Crawler Action is also pretty good. Instead of monsters, its flip effect destroys spells. By the way, one of the few cards in the set with a spell and trap removal effect. 1800 defense are solid, a lot of synergy with other cards, very good card, play this. The third crawler is called Crawler Clear. This card can special summon a crawler from your hand or grave. Very important. Even the link monsters. If you have a lot of crawlers, or you can special summon the crawler link monsters. For 2 of them you don't even need crawler monsters, just earth or insect type. Play this. Next we have Crawler Receptor. This card lets you add a crawler from your deck to your hand if it's flip face up. Nice if you have a lot of crawlers, but if you only have like a few, don't, because its overall stats are just too weak. The second last crawler is called Crawler Renvir. This card lets you recycle up to 2 crawlers from a graveyard. Probably the worst crawler for the sneak. It can be nice, but requires too much setup and its stats are just too bad. The last crawler, called Dendrite, lets you send a monster from your deck to the grave. You can use this card to send, for example, the Strudo card that we're gonna take later on, a very powerful dragon type monster, from the deck to the graveyard to be able to special summon it. There are also a few other combos, but nothing too special and worth mentioning. Dendrite is okay, but unlike you have a lot of other crawlers, and especially the crawler trap card, I wouldn't play this. And now we come to the World Legacy card of the set. World Legacy Star Armor. This card is powerful. If you flip summon a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Very important for all beginners. You can flip summon all monsters, not just flip effect monsters. So just set a monster next turn, bring it into attack position and bam, you can special summon this card from your hand. It even has a surge effect and way to get rid of your opponent's extra deck monsters. Very strong card. So how do you play around this card if your opponent has it? Well, simply attack into his face down defense position monsters. They are flip face up, but not flip summoned. Flip summoning only is possible if the card is turned from face down defense position to face up attack position. That's the difference. Of course, this countermeasure is dangerous, I agree, but it is efficient because such a powerful monster can decide games. Better take some slight damage than give your opponent complete control over the game. Next, the Metaphys monsters that have an effect when they are special summoned by other Metaphys monsters and an effect if they are banished. Metaphys Ragnarok is the only level 4 or lower Metaphys monster with 1500 attack. You can banish the top 3 cards of your deck, then you summon him, and if you get lucky by banishing other Metaphys cards, you can increase his attack. But I would not recommend doing this for 3 reasons. The chances are too low, you won't have enough Metaphys monsters in your main deck for this to work, and if you banish the only other monster, you cannot use his second very powerful effect. And you also deck out earlier. Speaking of the second effect, if he inflicts battle damage, you can special summon a Metaphys monster from your deck. Those monsters get a very powerful effect if they're summoned this way, but they're banished during the end phase of your opponent's next turn. Still, this is a very dangerous effect. You don't want to take any damage from this card. Don't summon monsters with less than 1500 attack in attack position. And do you play this? Yes, but only if you have at least one of the big Metaphys monsters. For example, Metaphys Daedalus. This card can banish all other special summoned monsters on the field if it's summoned by another Metaphys monster. But even as a 2-2 monster with 2600 attack, it possesses a really big threat to your opponent. If you have no other good tribute monsters, this is a good choice. Metaphys Neptabus banishes all set spell and trap cards on the field, even yours, so be careful. 2400 attack are okay and strong enough, but other level 7 or higher monsters have overall better stats. Probably the worst of the high level Metaphys monsters for the sneak. Only play this if you have no other tribute monsters at all, or any other high level tribute monsters, or if you have a lot of Metaphys support cards. Metaphys Tyrant Dragon is arguably the best high level Metaphys monster simply because it has insane stats. 2900 attack is strong enough to get over, I think, everything besides 3 monsters in the entire set. Very strong monster, probably the best tribute monster in the set. And the Metaphys boss monster called Metaphys Executor looks cool and has an insane effect, but let's be honest here, nobody will summon this. You will need to pull 5 other Metaphys cards with different names, and then you have to get them all into the graveyard, but most of the time they will simply be banished by their own effects. So don't play this, trust me, you will not be able to summon this, even if you play against a very bad player. The next card is Mammal Abyss Nybra, a nice defensive 4 with 2000 defense. She also has a hand trap effect to boost the attack of a water monster, but that effect is very situational and requires you to use a lot of resources. Her last effect lets you cycle through your deck, which is nice to optimize your cards in hand, but again, her stats are already enough. This card is good, play her. Next we have Fire King Avatar, oh my god, these names are such tongue twisters. Normally I would tell you that this card can negate monster effects by destroying another fire monster you control or in your hand, but guess what, he's the only fire monster in the entire set. I double checked this, correct me if I'm wrong, but again, he's the only fire monster in the entire set, and he's also not a common, so it's very unlikely that somebody has 2 copies of this. But hey, he has 1800 attack, he's level 4, that's very strong on its own, playable. Next we have Mecha Phantom Beast Raiton, allows you to discard cards to special summon tokens to your side on the field. It can also not be destroyed by battle or by card effect while you control a token. I would recommend using this card to tribute summon a token next turn, or use them next turn to link summon. But this is risky, so only do this if you're 100% sure that enough monsters will survive your opponent's next turn, so that you can really tribute summon and get advantage. Otherwise this card could backfire, it's very risky, I'm warning you. The next card is absolute trash. The accumulator gets attacked based on the amount of link monsters on the field. Guess how high the link rating, so the amount of link errors on the field, needs to be to get this thing up to a solid number? 6. 6 errors. That will never happen on a sneak. Never ever. The worst thing, if you destroy an opponent's link monster, this thing also loses attack. So if you haven't figured it out yet, don't play this. This card is garbage. Next card, Soldier Dragon, allows you to special summon low level dragon type monster from a deck if your opponent activates a card effect, or what he probably will do, he just summons a monster and attacks over the 700 attack card like it's nothing. Don't play this unless you have Twin Triangle Dragon. I have to say, Duck Dropper has an amazing artwork, but it's a Gemini with 0 attack and defense. It basically becomes invincible, but instead of it, your opponent can attack directly. It's way too slow. You will take too much damage from your opponent's direct attacks. Don't play this, way too slow and risky. Next, Co-Joint Bird Rainin. Ignore its effect, trust me, it doesn't matter, it's just a monster with 1500 attack. Not that good, there are too many 1600 attack monsters in this set. Next we have Blast, and this card can deal massive amounts of damage to both players. It's also Earth Insect flip effect monster. Thanks to that, it has a lot of synergy with other cards, especially Korra support cards. Even though its highest stat is only 1500, it's still playable, especially dangerous if your opponent has less than 2000 life points. Amano Iwato is the next card, and cards with ridiculous names like that tend to be spirit monsters. This is a very good one at least. It prevents the effect activations of all monsters except spirit type monsters, which is very good against crawlers. 1900 attack for level 4 is incredibly high. Of course this card returns to the hand at the end of the turn, so make sure you have a nice defensive wall on your side on the field before summoning this card, so your opponent cannot attack you directly, otherwise you take a lot of damage. Very good card, even if it needs some setup. The next card is Whirlwind Machine Stryborg. It's in my opinion the best 1-tribute monster in the set. It can return opponent's cards in the same column to the hand by discarding a card. And it even has the effect that the monster tributed for it gets back to your hand, so you can discard it for its own effect. very good tribute monster with decent 2200 attack. And now let's talk about this Trudeau, the Lost Dragon's Prison. This thing has 3000 defense. Not a single monster in the set can attack over this. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It can even be special summoned from the hand or graveyard by paying half your life points. It's a tuner that makes level 7 synchros very easy to summon, like for example Samurai Destroyer. But even if you don't have Samurai Destroyer, this thing is one hell of a card. It's only a rare, so probably the best rare in the set. You can even use this card and destroy it on purpose, so you get more cards in your deck and prevent yourself from decking out. But be careful with the life point cost, not that you lose in time mod. I mean really, it's not that unlikely, be careful. Still, this card is insane, a must play if you get it. Next we have Elemental Greystar Riado, a monster that needs to be special summoned, hits the field with 3000 attack. So why is this card red, you might think? Well, the problem is that players need all kinds of attributes in the graveyard to special summon her. And as I already mentioned earlier, Fire King Avatar is the only fire monster in the entire set. So if you or your opponent doesn't have a single fire monster, you cannot summon her at all. At this point I want to mention that all the cards that are not played in your main deck on the sneak peek are basically your side deck. Of course also only the cards out of your 5 boosters. So this card could actually be a solid side deck option if your opponent has that Fire King card. Next we have 2 short prints. Short prints are commons, but they are around 10 times as rare. Nimble Beaver allows you to special summon another Nimble monster from your deck. The problem, he is the only one in the set, so you need to get very lucky and get 2 of those to actually make use out of him. If you get 2, you can immediately go into Mr. Boy, a very good Link 2 monster, which is actually pretty good combo, but I doubt that you will be that lucky, so don't play this unless you have that combo. Next up we have one of the best cards in the entire set, Mythic Muscular, a level 4 with 2200 attack. His downside is that he cannot inflict battle damage, instead he increases the life points of your opponent if he inflicts damage, but that isn't a big deal. Use him to destroy your opponent's defense position monsters, then attack directly with another monster you control. As long as your opponent doesn't have that Unleashed Rocket Dragon, Mythic Muscular will be able to attack over every single level 4 or lower monster with ease. A crazy strong card for the sneak, a must play. And now we get to the Link monsters. If you get one of these, simply play them even if you cannot summon them. It's just a mind game. I mean, if you play against someone and they have no cards in their extra deck, you for sure know that they cannot Link summon. Opponents might overthink your play. Again, it's just a mind game, but it could make a difference. The first Link monster is also the cover monster. Warlord Dragon is a generic Link 4, very hard to summon, but the card is very strong. It can take over your opponent's monsters, reduce their attack, cannot be targeted by opponent's monsters, and of course it has 3000 attack. Very strong card, but sadly a secret rare and very hard to summon. The next Link monster is Link Bumper. I really don't know why you would summon this on the sneak. Weak stats for Link 2 in fact is so specific that you will never ever get it off. Anyway, only play this to make your opponent think that you have something in your extra deck. Yeah, that's the only reason. Next we have Trickster Cat Bat. The effect of this card doesn't really matter because it needs to be summoned in the main monster zone, and it also requires 2 Trickster monsters. Well, Narcus is the only other Trickster monster in the set, so you will probably not be able to summon this or see this on the sneak at all. Next we have Goki Thunder Ogre, a completely unusable card because you need 3 copies of Goki Headbutt Bat to summon it, and Headbutt Bat, as we already talked about in this video, is pretty bad, so don't play this. Twin Triangle Dragon on the other hand is a pretty interesting card. It can special summon level 5 or higher monster from your graveyard. Sure, it requires dragon type monsters, and also the monster you summon it has its effect negated, and it can't attack the turn, but still pretty good. Next we have Altergeist Prime Banshee. I don't see anybody summoning this card. The Altergeist monsters have a very high rarity, and why would you give up 3 of them for this 2000 attack monster? Even worse, its effect requires additional Altergeist monsters in your deck, as if you would pull like 3 or 4 Ultra Rays from a sneak. Pretty useless card in my opinion. I don't see this being played on the sneak. Unlike the next 2 monsters, X-Crawler Synapses Link 2 with 1800 attack that only requires 2 Earth monsters. It has a bunch of other good effects if you play a lot of crawlers, but even if you have no crawlers, this thing is still nice because it's so easy to summon. Its attack stats are decent. By the way, this is just a common, so prepare to see this card a lot. X-Crawler Naurogus is very similar to Synapses. It had 100 attack more, but it's also harder to summon because it needs insect type monsters. Again, a very good card if you have a lot of crawlers. And then we have the Crawler boss monster. X-Crawler Qualiarch has 2000 attack but requires 2 crawler monsters. It has additional effects based on the amount of crawlers you control. I mean, you get it, the more crawlers you play in your deck, the stronger this card becomes. Next we have one of the secret rares. Akashic Magician is a very easy to summon Link 2. It only requires 2 monsters with the same type, which shouldn't be a problem. It can bounce back monsters it points to. So if you're playing against the person that you already know pulled this card in their packs, you better avoid summoning monsters in the same column as the extra deck monster zones. Also, if you pull this, I would not recommend using the Surge effect. It's too luck based and also you will deck out earlier. And last but not least, another common Link 2 monster, Mr. Boy. We already talked about this when we talked about Nimble Beaver. Increase the attack of all water monsters on the field, even itself, by 500, so it gets to 900 on a summon. Very good if you have a lot of water monsters, obviously. Yeah, absolutely playable. And now we come to the spell cards. Security Block is a quick play spell that prevents one of your Cybers type monsters from being destroyed by battle. It's okay, but sadly there aren't that many useful Cybers type monsters on the set, but keep this card in mind if you want to double kill one of your opponent's attack position Cybers type monsters. Next we have a very interesting rare Dragonoid Generator. This continuous spell card allows you to summon tokens. Those tokens can be triggered for a triple summon, but be careful, your opponent also gets tokens at the end of your turn. Best use this card if you pulled like a very good 3-bit monster like Metafist Tyrant Dragon and already know that your opponent cannot summon a monster in their turn that has a higher attack stat. I think that's the best use for this card. Next we have Script Draw, basically a Destiny Draw for rocket monsters. Sadly this card is very high rarity, so most people will not be able to use this. So don't worry about this card, it's not good unless you put like 3 rocket monsters and this secret rare, which is very unlikely. And by the way, the rocket monsters also need different names for this to really work. Next we have Quick Launch. This is another rocket secret rare support card, live Script Draw. You need multiple rocket monsters with different names to use this card efficiently, or use this to special summon rocket and triple it. But the use is very limited, but it's a secret rare, only like 1 or 2 people will have this anyway. Next we have another powerful feat spell, Shadow Creeping on World Legacy. This card can special summon crawlers from your hand, boosts their stats by 300 and has a built-in monster removal effect. This is also a common and probably one of the best spells in the entire set for the sneak peek. If you have at least 3 to 4 crawlers, you play this. Battle for the World Legacy is a battle phase trick. It can decrease the attack of your opponent's monsters, but you can also use it to avoid targeting effects or banish one of your monsters to prevent it from being destroyed by battle. Then you can use that monster next turn to triple summon. A very versatile quick play spell, absolutely playable. Next we have the feat spell card for Metafist. You can summon Metafist monsters without tripling monsters, but they are banished at the end of your opponent's next turn. Very strong card if you have like 2 or 3 high level Metafist monsters, otherwise don't play this. For only 1 summon it's not really worth it. Next we have Asymmephis. To make it quick, this card is unusable on the sneak, too specific unless you have a lot of Metafist monsters. As I already pointed out, they are very high rarity, so chances are low that you use this card to its full potential. Next we have a very powerful spell card, One-Time Passcode, lets you special summon a token with 2000 attack and defense in defense position. You can triple that token, use it for a link summon, attack next turn. So very powerful card, definitely use this if you pull it out of your packs. Next we have Rival. This card allows you to normal summon a monster during the battle phase. Very important, it doesn't say additional normal summon. That means it makes the most sense to use this card at the end of your opponent's battle phase to normal summon a monster and then during your turn triple it. Besides that, you can also normal summon a monster to protect your life points from direct attacks. The card is very versatile, but on a sneak it doesn't have that very high ceiling that you have in a normal game, but it's still playable to give you a little bit of field advantage. Next we have Overdone Burial, another secret rare. This card allows you to revive a monster from your graveyard by discarding a monster with a high level. And also the monster summoned this way gets its effect negated. Although there are a lot of downsides to this card, it's still very powerful. Being able to special summon a high level monster from your grave increase your field presence is very strong on the sneak peek. Card is powerful, no debate. Next we have Altar of the Mind's Eye. Any battle damage a player takes becomes 1000. It's alright, but its effect also affects you. I would not recommend playing this because you don't play a deck that benefits from this card. So you're just activating a card that works against and for both players. In other words, this is a -1. To be fair, the card at least works with the next one. Backup Squad lets you draw cards whenever you get 1000 or more damage. Battle damage included, not bad actually. On the sneak, this card's draw power could win you a game and might even prevent your opponent from attacking directly. Playable even though it decreases your chances of stacking out. The next card is called Burning Bamboo Sword and it's like Nimble Beaver. It's a short print that only works in combination with itself. I doubt that you will be lucky enough to get 2 of these, and even if you get them, going -2 just that your opponent can skip their next main phase 1 isn't that strong on a sneak. Most players will simply set a monster and pass, not really playable. And now we come to the trap cards. Cyber Beacon is a search card for cyber type monsters, not bad, but again there aren't that many useful cyber type monsters in the set. So what do you want to search? A defect compiler? I mean, better play another monster instead of this card, trust me. Link Restart allows you to negate effect damage, then special summon a link monster from your grave. Seems good, but way too situational. Just be careful, don't inflict battle damage to your opponent while they have a very strong link monster in a grave and a set spell or trap card. But honestly, this card is bad, don't play it. Next we have arguably the worst card in the entire set for the sneak peek. Remove Reverse Special Summons a monster from your opponent's graveyard to a zone a link monster you control points to. Okay, again, a monster from your opponent's graveyard to the side on the field and you need to control a link monster to activate this. You get the problem, I think. Next we have the Other Guy's trap cards. Other Guy's Camouflage makes it so that Other Guy's monsters you control cannot be attacked, but therefore your opponent can attack directly instead. It also has a nice protection effect from the graveyard. Dangerous and risky card, play this only if you put Other Guy's Marionetta or Circuitous or both. Other Guy's Protocol allows you to negate monster effects by sacrificing another Other Guy's card. It's very unlikely that somebody will be able to use this card to its full advantage. You need too many high rarity cards for this to work, so only play this if you get very lucky with your pulls. The last Other Guy's trap card is called Personal Spoofing. It lets you exchange Other Guy's cards in the hand or field with Other Guy's monsters in your deck. Again, you need too many high rarity cards to make this thing work, and even if this card isn't that great, don't play it. Next we have a very powerful trap card, World Legacy's Puppet. It's a trap card that allows you to either flip crawlers up or face down or even other monsters, but mainly you want to use this on flip effect monsters. This card is especially strong in combination with Crawler Spine. Your opponent summons a strong monster, flip this face up, Crawler Spine's effect triggers, destroys that monster, then during your turn shuffle the Crawler back from your graveyard into your deck to flip Crawler Spine face down and repeat. This way your opponent is locked down. This is one of the best combos in the entire sneak, but even without Spine this card is still pretty good. Another way to use this card is to change the battle position of one of your crawlers to win a battle against an attacking monster. The more crawlers cards you have, the better this card becomes. World Legacy Trap Cloak is unplayable. There aren't enough World Legacy cards in the set to activate this, and even if you could activate this, there's way too much setup needed. Don't play it. Metaphyst Dimension on the other hand is pretty damn powerful. The only downside is that you need to get very lucky with your pulls to get enough Metaphyst monsters to use this card to its full potential. But after all, you can special summon high level monsters and you can also banish your opponent's cards thanks to this card. So if you have a lot of Metaphyst monsters, if you got very lucky, you play this, otherwise not. Next up we have Metaverse. This card allows you to activate a feed spell directly from your deck. Not that useful on the sneak. The only good way to use this card is, in my opinion, to activate it if your opponent attacks one of your crawlers. You can activate a crawler feed spell from your deck. And if your opponent's monster destroys your crawlers, this monster will also be sent to the graveyard thanks to the field spell. But besides that very niche role, the card is not that great. I would not recommend playing it unless you have that crawler feed spell and obviously a lot of crawler monsters. And now we come to probably the most expensive card in the set. Evenly Matched is a card that forces your opponent to banish cards face down until they have the same amount of cards as you. Very important, when you activate this card, Even a match is still face up, so it counts itself. That's why your opponent always keeps at least one of their cards. You probably know who has this card on the Sneak because it's a secret rare and every minute somebody will ask if somebody pulled this card. I'm not kidding, this will be the case. So if you play against that person, don't ever extend your field. That's all, just trust me. This card isn't that powerful, you can easily play around it. It's a sneak peek, not a competitive match, so it's still playable though, but not as powerful as a normal game. Next we have another secret rare called Sideline. This card destroys a card in this card's column. Listen up, good advice incoming. If you play against somebody that has this card, you simply don't play new cards in the same column as the set card they control. It's that easy. If you have this card, don't set it. Wait until your opponent has a strong card on the field that you want to destroy. Set this card in the same column as that card. Next turn you will be able to destroy it. Everything else is way too risky because you depend on your opponent's actions. That's too luck based. Keep this card in your hand and set it and use it as I just told you. Next we have Broken Line, another column based trap. This card can negate card effects in the same column. The same advice I gave you on Sideline also count for this card. So just set this card after your opponent has a threat on board and don't activate card effects if you know you're playing against somebody who has this, and activate card effects in the same column as a card that is already set on your opponent's side on the field. And the last trap card, yugioh. This card special summons 2 tokens to your opponent's side on the field. Unfortunately, you cannot really use its graveyard effect, which is actually pretty good. Giving your opponent 2 tokens will result in the worst case scenario for you that your opponent will be able to special summon a very powerful link monster, so don't play this card. And now we come to the TCG exclusive card, Samurai Destroyer. This is a level 7 synchro with 2 insane effects. If he attacks, your opponent cannot activate card effects and the effects of monsters that he battles are negated. So a very strong card against crawlers. Even better if he leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a machine from your graveyard, and yes, you can special summon himself, and he's not even once per turn. So in other words, this card cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects or any card effect that sent him to the graveyard. This is insane. This card is a game winner. There is nearly no way to beat this guy. Consider yourself lucky if you get one, and this card is only rare. By the way, this card can be synchro summoned with Hello Hello, your sneak promo card, and the Strudo. And because everybody has at least one Hello Hello, this card is a threat that you really need to keep in mind. A very, very strong card. Next we have Ventured Chimera. Cool artwork, sadly unplayable because you cannot summon this card. Ventured Strix on the other hand is playable. Its effect doesn't matter that much, but 2000 defense are enough to protect you from opponent's monsters. Next we have Ventured Knights, another card that you cannot really use unless you have several Ventured Strix, so you can discard one to search another one, then special summon the first one back, but for my personal taste this is too specific. I would not recommend playing this field spell. Ventured Reunion is also pretty useless. You cannot activate this card because you will not be able to fulfill the activation requirements on the Sneak. Next we have FA Whipcrosser. This card basically has 1200 attack, and if you have the feed spell it gets 1500. But that's still not good enough because most monsters on the Sneak have 1600 or more attack, so no, don't play this. And then we have another FA monster called Turbocharger, level 6, that hits the field with 1800 attack. This card is only good if you can summon 2 of them at the same time, but with this awful setline for level 6 that's way too hard to pull off. Another card that I would not recommend. Other 1-3 monsters are simply better. And then we have the FA's field spell. One of the most useless cards on the Sneak. The best thing that you could achieve with this card is to snatch a card off your opponent's hand if they destroy one of your FA monsters in battle, but then again that would require you to play FA monsters in the first place, so no, don't play this. Next we have another unplayable FA card, FA Pit Stop. It's actually pretty insane, but not on the Sneak. On the Sneak it's garbage. The problem is this card only works in FA decks. Sure, you could use the graveyard effect to bring back a Turbocharger from your graveyard, but is that really worth it? I mean, your opponent probably has a very high attack position once on the field if he attacked over your Turbocharger in the first place. So I don't think so. The activation requirements are simply too specific. And here we come to the last 10 cards. Lunar Knight Crimson Fox, a level 4 with 1800 attack. You all know what that means. She is already playable, very good. Also, if she is discarded, you can reduce the attack of your opponent's monster to 0. That's some nice synergy with Triberg, you know, the good 1-3 monster with 2200 attack that can bounce back monsters. Or you could use this in combination with Kaleido Chick. It allows you to send another Lunar Light from your deck to the graveyard. Obvious synergy is obvious. So yeah, if you have at least one Crimson Fox, play this, otherwise not. Next up we have an XYZ monster called Nirulusk Starling. I probably butchered that name. It's a rank 1 that can increase a monster's attack and can deal a lot of damage with its last effect if it attacks an opponent's monster. But they are all very specific and risky effects. Also, they need a lot of setup. And you also need to play level 1 monsters to use this card, so there's just too much setup needed. It's okay, but I don't think this card will see a lot of use. I would only play this card if you can finish your opponent off with the last effect. Next up, we have a few Amazon cards. Amazon Spy can be special summoned if you discard Amazon's monster. The problem is she is the only main deck Amazon monster in the set. I mean, you could tribute her, but again, I said this so often, those effects are way too specific. They could work in one game, but in most games, the card is just a monster with awful stats, so I would not recommend play this, even if you have 2 copies. The next 2 cards, Amazon's Petliger and Amazon's Empress, are both unplayable because you cannot fusion summon them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure because I triple checked. Then we have the last spell card in the set, Quiet Life. Both players can only normal or special summon. Not bad because on a sneak you cannot really special summon multiple times in a turn, and normal summoning is very important. On the other hand, we have the same problem like with Rod of the Mind's Eye. This card works with and against you. I would not recommend playing this, but maybe it's just a nice side deck option against certain opponents that put very good. Next up we have number 41, Bagushka the Terrible Tired Tapir. Basically this is a rank 4 beat stick with 2100 attack that is very hard to destroy, but destroys itself after a few turns. It's still good and playable. I mean, it's generic. There might be a situation where you really need that 2100 attack beat stick to get over your opponent's defensive monsters. Next up, we have probably one of the best link monsters in the entire set. Subterror Behemoth Phoenix hits the field with 2000 attack, and all you need for the link summon of this card are 2 flip monsters. The card can also special summon high level monsters from your hand. Again, pretty good, although they are summoned face down. But hey, summoning a World Armor face down or a Metaphys Tyrant Dragon or something like that isn't too bad. A very good card, playable if you have at least 2 crawlers or that plus aren't card. And the last card, Spiral Double Helix, probably the most pricey ultra rare from the set, but useless on the sneak itself. You cannot summon it, it's that easy. And yeah, with this we did it. All 100 cards from the set. This video was so much work and it's always a run against the time, I have to admit that. I'm pretty late, but you have to understand, for the last 4 days I did nothing else than going to work, coming home, having dinner, and then after that working like 5 to 6 hours till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the night for you to bring you this video. I can only do this because there are so many people who wanted this video and there are so many cool responses from you guys. So if this video doesn't get any attention, like, I really have to ask myself if it's really worth to put like 20 hours of time or even 22, 25 hours of time into this video. So please support the channel. I don't want your money. Simply like this video, share it, leave a comment. That's all I'm asking for. So please support this channel and thank you in advance for helping me. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you watch all the way till here, you are incredible. Leave the hashtag Plagaga Support Squad in the comments and please let me know how your sneak peek went. Did this guide help you? Did you win your playmat? And is there something you missed maybe? I wish you all a good sneak, good pulls and a lot of success. Till next time. Bye.